Oh, okay. Well, Pepe clearly has no sympathy for me, but today we're starting After by Todd, and I'm just ready to dive in to this amazing Wattpad sensation. Okay, so earlier in the day, I finished a book called The Boys of Brayshaw High. Don't remember the author's name, I'll put a picture right here. This is relevant because this book was perhaps the worst book I've ever read. It stretched the bounds of my belief a little too hard. There were 3 men, 1 girl, things got steamy, I guess you could say. The reason I'm mentioning it is because I think it's gonna impact my view of After. I'm 100 pages into After, and I started it like right upon getting it, which was like a week or 2 ago. And now I'm like, I think after having read The Boys of Brayshaw High, I don't think I'm gonna be shocked by After. I don't think anything that's gonna happen is gonna just blow my mind. I do know what happens at the end, which we'll see how we'll just see. Honestly, there's a lot of we'll see here because I don't know what to expect, and you're gonna get all my live reactions. It's gonna be a fun time. I have a new vlogging camera. I don't know if you guys can tell, the audio might be a little different than my other videos because I can't attach an external mic, not that anyone gives a fuck. My plans for today are really just to read a little bit of After. That's what this vlog's about. Hope you guys are excited. I'm excited. Is excited the right word? I'll talk to you guys a little bit later once I've actually started. Okay, so I thought I would update you guys. I'm a couple of chapters in, yay. So essentially, we haven't even really talked about what After is about, but I'm pretty sure most people know already that it is about Hardin and Tessa. Hardin is the Harry Styles character. Basically Harry Styles, just more tattoos and more fuckery, because Harry Styles is apparently a very nice guy. Hardin is not. So the story is about this girl named Tessa who's going to college. She meets this guy through her roommate because her roommate's like a bad girl with dyed hair. She meets Hardin, who's a frat guy, British, a lot of shit just that doesn't add up. And the first few chapters of this book are setting up, I guess, their love story. I don't think there's going to be a lot of love between the 2 characters, but from what I gather, that's what's happening. What's happened so far is that Tessa has gone to a party with her roommate. She's met Hardin. She was dared to kiss him, believe that they kiss. As you can see, it's not very memorable, but there's just tension from there. They like fight, have sexual tension, they fight again. What's happened most recently is that Tessa has gone to class with Hardin. They have a class together, I believe it's English. They fight over something in class. They basically debate with each other. After that, Hardin's like, you know what, let's just be friends. Tessa's cool with this, even though she has a boyfriend, even though they've kissed. Even though she's sort of problematic, she's like, yeah, for sure, like, let's be friends. He asks her on a friend date. The chapter I just read, they go on said friend date. Not without drama, though. Of course, there has to be drama in this situation. He picks her up from, I don't know, school, I guess. They get into some sort of argument. Tessa storms off, he storms off. Then he comes to pick her up from her dorm room. They get another little mini argument, and then he says, I'm gonna take you on this date, not telling you where we're going. Which, okay, first of all, a little problematic in my eyes. Like, I don't think I would trust essentially a stranger, even if you've kissed him. Like, you know nothing about this dude. Why are you trusting a stranger with your life? Anyway, they're going on this date. Tessa has told us that her favorite band is The Fray. What the fuck? I don't know if you guys, this is like a common thing or not, but I think everybody has that one musical artist or actor or whatever that they just like have an unreasonable hatred for. For me, it's The Fray, and that Tessa likes The Fray furthers my hatred for her. She's just very judgmental, and I think that's kind of what has been killing me so far. It's like every other sentence. Oh, she has dyed hair. She must be a slut. My mom, a slut with her 5-inch heels. A lot of like woman hate, which I don't appreciate very much. And then Hardin is just kind of an insufferable asshole. So far, he mostly just wants to be left alone. So like, I'm kind of giving him the benefit of the doubt, but I'm sure that he's going to exhibit more problematic behavior that I'll probably be telling you about. That's where I'm at right now. Okay, so a lot has happened since we last talked. And by a lot, I mean an entire chapter, but it was a steamy chapter. So last time we spoke, Hardin picked up Tessa and they were gonna go on their first date. It's like weird even calling it a date because she has a boyfriend. I think his name is Noah, and I guess she just doesn't give a fuck that she has a boyfriend. Whatever. That's probably the least problematic thing that's gonna happen in this book. So chapter 25 is a real whirlwind, and I wanted to kind of take you guys with me. He takes her down a gravel road and they get out of the car, and Hardin's like, let's start walking, don't worry, I'm not gonna kill you. As a naive virgin, I think I'd be a little fucking terrified, but like, that's just me. They basically end up going to this river, and he convinces her to take off her clothes, right? You know, you don't want to get your clothes all wet, Tessa. Just Go in your brown panties. And Tessa is like not down with that, which like understandable. She ends up taking the t-shirt that he left and putting it like over her brown panties, taking her like actual clothes off. Anyway, she takes his t-shirt, hops in the water, and they do some like play fighting and splashing. It's all very just sexy. And she ends up wrapping her legs around his waist and they talk a little bit. It's just weird. And he basically convinces her to jump in the water in the first place because he's gonna answer a question, because he's so cryptic and so mysterious, and that's the only way that he'll, I guess, talk to her, is if she does what he wants her to do. So the question she asks is, who do you love the most out of everyone? And he says himself. She asks, well, what about your parents? And he says, do not speak of my parents again. Got it. Main issue is that Todd obviously has no fucking clue what to do when writing British characters, and it's not an uncommon problem, but it's also like British people do use contractions when they speak. So they end up splashing around a little bit more, and he says, what are you doing to me, Tess? He's just creepy. These lips, the things you could do with them. This is your first date, dude. And she has a boyfriend still. It's supposed to be a friend date, and you're telling her asking her what that mouth do. Moving along. I want to make you moan my name, Tessa, over and over again. Please let me. So they're still in the water at this point, and he's like caressing her. And then he asks, do you want it to be here or my room? But like, what is that question? What are you going to do? Are you gonna make out? Are you gonna have sex? I don't like that it's not clear what he wants to do to her. Anyway, they hop out and he like lays her on his wet t-shirt. He like takes the wet t-shirt off of her, lays it on the ground, and it's like, here you go, bitch. She like moves to cover up his body, and he's always like, don't ever cover up. Not for me. Why is that such a common thing in books? It's not romantic, it's not sexy, it's just fucking weird. Like, except that people have some insecurities, okay? She points out that he's been with a lot of girls. And then, I liked this part. Do you have a condom? I say, trying to remember the few things I know about sex. A condom? I'm not gonna have sex with you, as if this is a game to him. And basically, he says, like, we're not gonna have sex today, it's fine. And he just proceeds to be creepy in this entire encounter. He says, I can't believe no one has fucked you before, before he, like, slips his hands into her panties. He gets off on the fact that she has never done anything with anyone. He drives her to orgasm. A couple minutes later, before she has time to recover, he already has his jeans and shoes back on. He doesn't entice her or induce her to do anything, which I guess is like kind of nice, but he's just kind of weird about the whole thing. She's asking like why he's being so weird because they're about to go to leave, and she says that he hasn't said a word to her since it happened, since I gave you your first orgasm. And she goes, I'm so surprised by his dirty mouth. That's purely scientific, bitch. Facts are facts. There's nothing like dirty about that. And the encounter ends with her getting kind of like upset because he doesn't want anything from her sexually. The last couple of sentences, he makes me feel things I never knew I could, and not just sexually. He makes me laugh and cry, yell and scream, but most of all, he makes me feel alive. I wish I had gotten my live reactions on camera when I was actually doing this, because I was talking to Zafina and Almonds. Oh boy, good stuff. So that's just one chapter of this book, and I'm sure it's only gonna get worse from here. Hopefully, like tomorrow, I'll just have the camera running like in a time lapse or whatever, to where I can like actually get my live reactions to certain parts. But we're at chapter 26, page 120. This much left, so we'll probably do most of that tomorrow. There's only after. Yeah. Okay, no, enough of the bad jokes. I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Another day, another Palmetto clothing item. That just kind of seems to be the trend for my vlogs. So I'm on page 198. So I've read about 70-ish pages since we last talked. Hardin drops Tessa back off at her dorm after their date. He basically says something to the effect of, don't break up with your boyfriend for me. I have no interest in being your new boyfriend. And Tessa gets, I think, rightfully angry, because Hardin has known this entire time, like, hey, she's got a boyfriend, I'm fucking around with her. And he wants to continue to do things with her, but has no interest in being her boyfriend. And Tessa's stupid if she thinks that she should dump her super sweet boyfriend for him. We go from there, and Tessa pretty much immediately calls her actual boyfriend, Noah, and is like, hey, Noah, I miss you so much, you should definitely come down for the weekend. He does. I think after being there for like a day, she gets called by this guy that she's friends with in one of her classes named Landon. Landon's mom is marrying Hardin's dad, so calls up Tessa and is like, yo bitch, Hardin's going crazy, you need to come over. Even though Noah is there for the weekend, Tessa decides to abscond with his car, goes alone to Landon's house. She gets to meet a belligerent Hardin Scott. So special. I just, like, why does she put up with this shit? Why did Landon, who's apparently a good guy, call Tessa when he knew that her boyfriend was in town, that it was a good idea to get her involved in a belligerent idiot's decisions? I'm not real sure. So she goes over, she talks to Hardin. Hardin's basically like, I don't know why you're here, you're stupid and naive for coming here. And then eventually they get into bed together and kind of fool around. She makes his boxers wet. She goes home to her boyfriend, and lo and behold, like 5 seconds after she's left Hardin to go see her boyfriend, Hardin shows up and is like, hey, if you're not going to tell him, I will. Will the drama ever cease? There's a big blowout fight. Hardin and Noah kind of go head to head. I don't think they like get into any sort of physical altercation, but Noah decides that he's gonna leave. He doesn't want to put up with this shit anymore. They don't formally break up. She's still dating Noah. He says, I love you when he leaves, but clearly things are not going very good for them as a couple. A couple days later, she, as in Tessa, is coerced into going to a party with her roommate Stephanie. I don't even think it's a party. They go to a biker restaurant because there's motorcycles parked out front. Tessa points out that I really thought we would have been going to like a TGI Fridays, but I guess this will do. And Steph is like giving her a makeover, and of course Hardin's there, is just like overly concerned for her. She accidentally gets ketchup on a burger and he knows that she doesn't enjoy ketchup. He decides to like say some shit about it. It's all just very silly and stupid. And instead of going to the party after dinner, Hardin is going to bring Tessa home for some fucking reason because she agrees to let him go. I'm just so intrigued. Like, what could he possibly have to say to me? And that's kind of where I'm at. I still have a considerable amount to go. Like, my goal for today is to get at least halfway done. I really wanted to finish this today, but I don't think I can emotionally endure this for an entire day. That's sort of where we're at. I'm making highlights as we go along for the live show. It's a wild ride, guys. I'm just updating you guys to let you know that Hardin is probably the most melodramatic piece of shit that I've ever read since I last talked to you guys. I'm on page 233 now. Hardin ends up taking her back to her dorm room and he decides to criticize her makeover because, of course, she can't dress naively, but she also can't be a slut. So he has to say something. And she basically says she doesn't give a fuck because Hardin doesn't have feelings, and so she can really be honest with herself. Healthy. She also calls Noah right after that and he talks, and she says that Noah is always helping everyone and that he is too good for her, which is true. What boggles the mind for me is, I'm sure this is going to happen multiple times in the book, where she does something shitty to Noah and Noah's just going to instantly forgive her and say, just stay away from Hardin, but she's not going to be able to stay away from Hardin. It's like, at some point, whether or not you're going to pursue a romantic relationship with someone, i.e. Hardin, it's still not okay or responsible to cheat on your boyfriend. This is not something that you've agreed upon. This isn't an open relationship. Get with it, sis. I highlighted a part in the book that says, I like to stay at least a week ahead on assignments. So after she gets dropped off by Hardin, she starts doing her homework at like 8 o'clock on a Saturday or something fucking ridiculous. She is a confirmed robot. No one ever gets shit done on time in college. I mean, it's just like facts are facts. So Hardin eventually comes back to her room and they decide to watch a movie. He spends the night, which she doesn't want, but he comes in drunk. And that's one thing that I wanted to touch on at this part and in this point in the book. It seems like Hardin tends to blame a lot of his behaviors on Tessa. He gets drunk, kind of blames Tessa for bringing out his emotions. He sleeps better with her. Anything that happens in their relationship is because of Tessa, according to Hardin, and that just doesn't seem like a healthy way to cope or to blame the way that you're behaving on someone else's behaviors. Messy. I don't like it. I don't really appreciate it. And then I just have a bunch of random notes like, can you imagine Zayn Malik throwing up on the floor of a Wendy's? There's also a scene where Tessa and Hardin are gonna go find a car for Tessa. Afterwards, they go to a fast food restaurant and a froyo place, and they see Hardin's dad at a froyo place, which is where the melodrama comes in. He knocks over a chair trying to leave the froyo place after Tessa accepts an invitation to eat dinner at Hardin's dad's house. Hardin's like all upset that she would bother to get inside of his life. The reason that he dislikes his dad is because apparently he left Hardin's mom in England and she's like poor and has to work so many jobs. Granted, it's pretty shitty. I just don't understand why his behavior is just so juvenile. So anyway, he leaves the froyo place. It's not a big deal after that, but says that he's going to pick her up and bring her to Hardin's dad's house because Hardin's like, I don't want to eat dinner at the house, but I guess I'll take you since we didn't end up finding you a car. And she's like, yeah, okay, sure, sounds good. He picks her up and then he decides that he is actually going to go to eat at his dad's house, and he's like, yeah, let's go inside and have the worst night of our lives. None of the encounters that we've had with Hardin's dad so far have been anything less than very pleasant, so I'm curious to see how this is gonna go and how Anna Todd is gonna spin this to be something just so dramatic. Are we gonna hate Hardin's dad? Are we gonna just think Hardin's a dumbass? Because I think Hardin's a dumbass. So I literally just updated you guys, but more great stuff happened that I needed to react to. So they walk in, they start having dinner, and of course Hardin is gonna give everybody a hard time, and as I predicted previously, the dad's actually really nice. Hardin's just an asshole. So we find out that Hardin's dad's actually the chancellor of the university that they go to. Tessa's all surprised about it. The dad asks, oh, you didn't tell her? This is Hardin's reply. No, okay, no, I didn't tell her. I don't know why it fucking matters. I don't need to use your name or position. And then I think he gets up from the table and goes outside to proceed to freak the fuck out. Tessa follows him. They have a little makeout session. Landon walks in on them, or walks out on them. I mean, they're out in the backyard while they're making out. Landon's like, don't you have a boyfriend? Tessa's like, not what it looks like. He knows about this, kind of. Tessa convinces Hardin to go back inside, and Hardin ends up apologizing to his dad, which is like pretty great, I guess. But also, you shouldn't have to have a fucking mental breakdown to realize that you're being a complete and utter dumbass. Not even a mental breakdown, it's literally a temper tantrum. So they go back inside, they start eating dinner again. There's a second freak out because one freak out's just not enough for Hardin, right? So he is at the table. They're talking a little bit about what Tessa wants to do post-grad. Hardin's dad says, I can get you an internship at this publishing house. And previously, Hardin talks about the same publishing house and how he can get Tessa an internship / job there. Hardin gets set off again because he wants to be the one to get her that internship because he just loves her so much. Walks away from the table again, goes up to his room this time. Tessa follows him again. He tells her, I'm upset because I wanted to help you get this internship. And she's like, I don't understand, like, what the fuck is the issue? He says, I want you more than I've ever wanted anyone or anything in my entire life. This kind of guilts her into kissing him, so she does that, and then he says, oh Tessa, the things you do to me, the way you make me feel. As I fucking stated previously, it's not healthy to chalk up your happiness or any of your behaviors to other people's behaviors. The way you make me feel. Take responsibility for your emotions, sir. And then they proceed to have their first oral experience, and by that I mean Hardin on Tessa, and then we get some really cool descriptions about the cool metal of his lip ring. Anna Todd does everything in her fucking power to point out that he has a lip ring. I didn't talk about it, but at the very beginning of the book, after the first time that they kiss, the next day Tessa's like at the dining hall eating something with a fork, and she is like, ooh, the cool metal of the fork is reminding me of Hardin's lip ring. So fucking cheesy and just ugh. And then in the middle of this encounter, without my permission, Hardin proceeds to digitize her, if you will. Without my permission is not a word I'd ever want to see in a sexual setting in a book. Don't love that. He does apologize after, but to me it's still, no, you just don't do that. You ask before you do anything to someone. And then they proceeded to go downstairs because Karen, Landon's mom, made dessert. So Hardin of course has to make a joke how he already had his dessert. Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at right now. That I think left me at page 250, so I'm gonna read the next 50 pages. Hopefully it's unexciting and I won't have to update you, but I probably will. All right, last update for tonight, and shit has officially hit the fan, sort of. So last I spoke to you guys, Hardin had finally had his dessert. After that happens, I guess there's a storm that night, so Karen, aka Landon's mom, offers to let them stay the night. They both do, and Tessa insists that she have her own room because she doesn't want to sleep in the same room as Hardin, but she wakes up in the middle of the night because Hardin's having a nightmare. Can't sleep without her, so she ends up going and sleeping in his bed. And then in the morning, it's just really fucking killed me. They wake up next to each other because, you know, she went to comfort him, and Tessa offers to, you know, offer her oral services, and he figures out that Karen's making breakfast, so he's like, just kidding, we're not doing that. And he gets in a really pissy mood, and it just really reminded me of that Vine that's like, so no head? I actually snorted whenever I read that. So they end up having breakfast, they go home. Tessa does not perform said services. It's just a weird, like, they fight again, of course, because like, when are they not gonna fight? He says something like, we both know by the end of the weekend you'll be back in my bed. And for some reason she cries at this and puts up with this behavior instead of saying, let's define the relationship, something like that. But she gets into her dorm room when he lets her out of the car, and he ends up following her, which I don't think she like knows at the time, but she hops into her dorm room and apparently Noah's there, and she figures out that not only is Noah in town unexpectedly, Hardin has been deleting messages from her phone, and she's unhappy about it, clearly, because what the fuck kind of behavior is that from a grown-ass person? And they get in like a 3-person fight, which just, this was really what blew my mind. Noah is basically like, where the fuck were you, Tessa? Like, I can't believe you spent the night with him. Hardin basically confesses his love to her. I need you. I know I'm cruel, but that's the only way I know how to be. I want to be better for you. Shit like that, you know, like typical fuckboy stuff. She's looking at Hardin as she says this. She says, you should go. Noah steps forward and is like, thank you. Like, I can't believe you told this guy off. She repeats, Noah, I said you should go. This is like some world star shit. I mean, like, obviously we knew that she was gonna end up with Hardin anyway, but the fact that she did it that way and that she chose to hear him out when she could have had these like conversations privately, that's some like messy bitch stuff. This is basically how their relationship begins. This is how Hardin and Tessa's relationship begins. They start making out right after Noah leaves. Great behavior. And then once he leaves, this really killed me. I grabbed my phone to text Hardin. Wait, I don't even have his number. So you entered into a relationship right after breaking up with your boyfriend of like 3 years who treats you well, and you realize you don't even have the number of the person that you are now in some sort of relationship with. Smart bitch move, Tessa. Later on, it's not really that noteworthy, but Tessa ends up performing her second sexual act. She ends up staying at the frat house. I think she performs this act at the frat house, and then she stays over, and I guess she's like going out of the bathroom into the hallway, and she encounters the guy, and he's like, hey Tessa, I haven't seen you in a while. Hardin comes out of the bathroom and is like, I should just beat the shit out of him, yeah? Maybe not. That's honestly pretty much it. She eventually goes to class, gets called out of class by Hardin's dad, and gets invited to Karen and Hardin's dad's wedding, and also gets an interview for the internship that she's excited about. When she tells Hardin about this, you want to guess what his reaction's gonna be? He was not thrilled. Yeah, that's kind of where we're at. I am officially halfway done with this book. I'll check in with you guys tomorrow. It's Monday. I am on page 400 of After, so that means since I last talked to you guys, I've read 100 pages. A lot has happened and not a lot has happened. It's crazy the way that this book cycles. Basically, in the past 100 pages, where we left off, Tessa and Hardin were kind of together at this point, and through these next 100 pages, they basically break up and get back together. When they break up, Hardin says, I love you. It's really messy, okay? So right before they officially break up, he says, I love you. She's like, I'm done with your shit. She goes away. And then she finds out from Karen, Hardin has never said I love you to anyone before. And so I think we're supposed to feel sympathetic to Hardin and kind of forgive all of his sins. He ends up going to a frat party. Tessa ends up finding him there. He basically didn't tell anyone that he had a girlfriend, so there's like a truth or dare situation. Tessa kisses Zed and Hardin kisses Molly, the slutty girl that Tessa is like scared of. From there, it's like they break up, get back together, break up, get back together, I think twice in this section of the book. And honestly, I was able to overlook some of the more problematic behaviors in the beginning of the book because it was just so humorous. Not the like mental and emotional abuse, that was not really humorous to me, but it was interwoven with funny things, so I think I was able to overlook it. But now we're just into like the real depths of the issues and seeing the patterns of Hardin's behavior, him emotionally manipulating Tessa into agreeing with him. And there's a part too where he forces her to kiss him. She says, stop touching me. He says, sorry, but you weren't gonna come with me. And she's like, because I didn't want to. He just doesn't really listen. He says, I tried to stay away from you, but I can't. I need you. There's also another part where he says, you make me crazy. Eventually, later on, he's like, you're the person that I love most in the world. The behavior is just like, it's really gross. I don't know how else to say it, and I wish that I could go back and live react for you guys, but I don't think it would really be worth it. These 100 pages are just so repetitive. It's all of the same bullshit. Him gaslighting her and making her feel guilty for basically just putting up with his shit. There's a part where he ends up throwing a lamp when she walks into the room. It's not because of anything that she's done, not that that would be justified anyway, but I'm worried about the next 200 pages. Really, like, I don't know where this story's going. I think the wedding of Karen and Hardin's dad Ken, I think that wedding's gonna happen pretty soon here, so I'm interested to see. I know Hardin's going to be at the wedding, what that looks like. Is he going to break shit? Is it going to be a mess? I don't really know. I'm sad. I also know that I could probably talk about this at the end, but I'm just gonna do it now. I am actually even more curious to see the movie after having read this, because I know that whoever wrote the script had to take out some of these problematic elements, and the rating of the movie is PG-13, so there's going to be no explicit scenes. So if you're taking out the sex scenes, all that's really left in this book is fighting and making up. So I'm curious to see how they turn this into a story. I think it's going to actually be kind of entertaining, and I think it's going to be a lot less emotionally manipulative on the big screen, so I'm actually very excited to see the movie. I'm going to go ahead and read the next 200 pages, and I will update you guys later. I have finished After. Okay, I am not going to do a whole lot in terms of plot updates because not much happened. I will tell you guys what happened and then we'll do kind of a wrap up of the book as a whole and like my thoughts. I don't really know where we last left off. I do know that the only thing that really happened that was exciting is that Tessa's mom came to town. She basically threatened Tessa with not paying for her dorm anymore if Tessa continued to see Hardin. What does Tessa do? She doesn't listen or reason or talk to her mother. She decides she's instead going to move into an apartment with Hardin. It's domestic bliss for, I don't know, like more pages than I really expected, to be honest. But of course, they kind of fall into the same bullshit. There's a few more arguments, nothing quite as problematic as the arguments in the previous 100 pages, but again, a few arguments. There is the wedding. The wedding does actually end up occurring. Nothing super dramatic, I feel like, happens at the wedding. Although she does find out a little bit more about Hardin's past at the wedding. Like, he takes her up to a room and kind of tells her why he has nightmares. So I guess that's nice. But really what I wanted to touch on were some things that I don't think that I've mentioned before. One is the alcohol use in this book is a little bit problematic and like a little bit worrisome to me. I hope that young people that read this don't think that the alcohol use is normal. It seems like both Tessa and Hardin tend to cope with their emotions and cope with any negative thing that happens by getting pretty shit-faced. And I also don't like that in multiple points in the book, both before and after they have their first consummation, if you will, Hardin continues to make comments about Tessa's naivety, talks about how the white dress that she wears to Hardin's dad's wedding is very virginal and he thinks it's so hot that she's so innocent. It's gross and kind of leads me into the ending. So obviously this whole vlog has had spoilers, but if you don't want to be spoiled for the very end of After and you want to go in and read this book yourself, you might want to skip this. But the ending was clearly the most problematic part and I knew that it was going to be, but seeing the buildup I think made it even worse. Like, they had been living together for I'm not quite sure how long. Seeing Hardin bet on her virginity essentially, I mean he was like mildly remorseful, but I feel like if you had been remorseful about betting on taking someone's virginity, you probably would have told them before you get a fucking apartment with them. It was actually hard to read, surprisingly, even though Tessa's pretty annoying and like Hardin's a shithead. It was kind of hard to read about that. While I don't think that virginity is something that should be placed on a pedestal, I think that doesn't take away the fact that in this context and unfortunately societally, it is kind of a big deal. So for him to have made that something that you can bet on and basically belittling that experience when he knew it was something that was really important to her, he could have stopped at any time and he could have called off the bet at any time, but he didn't. I think it's pretty irredeemable. I mean, that's pretty much all I have to say about that. Overall, my feelings on this book, I think I would give this 2 stars. I don't know. It's like in some ways it was a lot worse than I thought it would be. In some ways it was a lot better. It was a lot more straightforward than The Boys of Brayshaw High, which I stated before I think really is one of the worst books that I've ever read. Obviously is on the list of worst books that I've read, but it's not, it does not come close to that one in my opinion, and I'll do a review on that one pretty soon on my channel. This is just very simple and I think that's why I think it's so bad. The writing is not good. The way the story is woven together is not very good because like I said, it's written serially. There are a lot of other books and things that are well plotted that are put on Wattpad. I could choose to overlook that, but since there's so many other great self-published and serially published works, like this is not something that's impressive, and I think that's really why this was so bad. Also, the depiction of mental and emotional abuse that Tessa and Hardin endure and inflict upon each other, to me was something that I'm glad that it exists to show young people that like that's bad, but I'm not sure that all young people are going to be able to analyze it and realize that it is bad. I think it's good that people are reading this. I think it's good that people are discussing it because I think most people that are doing it in a very responsible way, and hopefully we can show people that this is not something to admire and to look up to. I will say there is a lot to admire in terms of like Anna Todd. While I think the story is kind of shitty and while I wish she would have written things differently, it is really inspiring to see someone start out on Wattpad and get published and be as successful as she is. It's definitely inspiring to me as someone who wants to be someone who is serially published, I guess you could say. It's like so many mixed feelings here. I don't have a lot of respect for Anna Todd's story, but I have respect for her as a person, as someone who was able to get her work published starting out as fan fiction. Didn't enjoy this, gave it 2 stars, but I'm glad that I read it. Some parts were entertaining and I'm very excited to see the movie. And that's it. That's basically all my thoughts on After. I hope you guys enjoyed this in some way. The vlog didn't go exactly as I had planned, but I hope it was entertaining, at least since the book wasn't all that entertaining. Yeah, I don't have anything else to say. I love you guys. I hope you guys are having a good weekend, and until next time.